This is the second video about consensual incest. Here, I will explore the different arguments for keeping our sexuality illegal, and then I will expose them for what they are, invalid arguments. These arguments serve to maintain the status quo, until they are comprehensively debunked. One argument is that incest will confuse family roles, and in so doing destabilize the family unit. For a start, family roles are flexible to begin with. No two families are the same. For example, in some families older siblings have duties to look after younger ones. In other families this is not the case. In some, parents are overbearing to their children well into their 20s or beyond, and in others, they become more like friends to their children when adolescence is over. So there is no one interpretation of normal family life to begin with as a proper baseline, as there is so much diversity already. Within an incest relationship, the existing family role does not cease to be. It tends to occur within more liberal families where there is less sense of rigidness and more sense of friendship. It takes for people to let their guard down to be open to such possibilities. When the romantic relationship begins, it is not necessary to redefine the existing family dynamic, rather the new romance fits around the family relationships. It is an addition to, not replacement of the family relationship. Even if it was true that incest destabilized the family unit, is that not the choice of the participants? After all, several legal activities may do the same thing, such as having an affair, alcohol abuse, reckless and obsessive gambling. The list goes on. People take risks all the time, and that is not against the law. The truth is that these innocent people are not about to destabilize the family unit by falling in love, and even if they did, that isn't the business of the state. That's a private matter for individual to resolve for themselves. People often worry also that it is a case of one person abusing another. This is rarely the case, because family members tend to care more about each other than they would any outside person. This is a common misperception based upon news articles depicting people sexually abusing children, or raping somebody that they are related to. I will say it again, monsters like that do not represent the consanguineous community. People who perpetrate abuse belong in jail. In a consanguineous romance, the people involved experience both the family love and the romantic love simultaneously. They love and care for each other in both ways. People tend to be concerned particularly about parent-offspring relationships in this regard. They view them as inherently imbalanced in favor of the parent. I strongly disagree with this view, because most parents in these relationships pretty much bend over backwards not to enforce their interests too much. They want to be perfect partners to their offspring. Remember that being both older and being parents, they are terrified almost of getting it wrong. In some cases, the offspring can take advantage and the parent can also become a victim. So the argument that it is inherently abusive is a nonsense. Abuse can and does happen in any kind of relationship, and it is hardly unique to consanguinity. Yet we do not make other relationships illegal on the basis that abuse may happen, only abuse itself is illegal. This same logic should be applied to incest couples. If there is abuse, then the abuse should be illegal. If there is a happy loving relationship, there is no reason to ban it. Many people find the concept of incest disgusting, and they want it to remain illegal for that reason. This is really a non-argument, because if everyone was to ban whatever they found disgusting, there would be very little that remained legal. Some people find gay sex disgusting, some people find straight sex disgusting, some people find S&M disgusting, some people find dressing up as Batman and banging your neighbor disgusting. And yet none of these things are breaking the law. Why should the lawmakers legislate based upon what some other person might find offensive? It makes no sense whatsoever. If somebody doesn't want to hear about something, that's fine. Don't listen to information about it. A major argument against incest is that it will lead to deformed babies. For a start, we do not ban other couples who may produce deformed babies from marrying and having children. These include couples who have a congenital disease, disabled people, and older women. We aren't in the business of eugenics, and so if they want to keep incest illegal on this count, their attitudes towards these other groups should also be under review. Furthermore, it is a known fact that in ancient Egyptian society, as much as 20% of the population was married to a member of their immediate family, most often brother and sister. Yet there is no record of 20% of the population being disabled or even slightly impaired. This means that the risks associated with inbreeding are exaggerated to a rather large degree. Three-headed babies are a myth. That's not to say, of course, that there isn't an increased risk. There surely is, but it is not as big a risk as the authorities would have you believe. Even if it were true, sufficiently few people are in incestuous relationships that it would make any significant impact on the health of the gene pool. Most people are by nature adverse to mating with a family member. Even if a small number of people do turn out disabled, is that necessarily the end of the world, and are their lives worth any less? What does this say of our attitudes towards the disabled in general? Would it be better that they were never born? What if all the disabled people born to unrelated parents, are their lives also not worth living? You know, all those people with a deformed limb, or with Down syndrome. Of course their lives are worthy of living. We should not argue otherwise, as it is an insult to the disabled community. Some say that incest is against nature. It is apparently unnatural. I would dispute this because a small minority within most species are perfectly happy to mate with their close family members, and therefore it is no shock that the same rare tendency exists within human beings also. Some say that the legalization of incest will lead to the legalization of pedophilia, or at least make life easier for pedophiles. I strongly disagree with this argument because the two are not the same thing. A pedophile is sexually attracted to prepubescent children. He or she may or may not act upon these attractions. The predatory pedophile may do the molesting in or out of the family home, and the victims may or may not be related to the perpetrator. Some pedophiles have claimed that they are incestuous because they have attacked a minor member of their family. But it is worth noting that in times gone by, other predatory pedophiles have claimed to be gay while molesting boy children. These monsters pretend to attach themselves to legitimate forms of sexuality, in order to steal its legitimacy. Incest is sexual relationships between adult family members, not between adults and related minors. Laws already exist to protect minors from the predation of adults. That is the reason that the age of consent exists. Anyone below this age is considered too young to enter into a sexual relationship. That's not to say that relationships between very similarly aged minors ought to be a legal matter, but adults should never interfere with minors in this way. For example, a 14-year-old girl and her 15-year-old brother may be experimenting with sexuality, and this need not be a problem, but a 29-year-old uncle doing the same with her is clearly not acceptable or morally right. That brings me to another point: who or what decides what is morally right? What sets the bar? Often incest is described as immoral. Why? Tradition may say so, but it's not like tradition is the fount of all knowledge. Immoral in my eyes is anything that harms others. Therefore cheating is immoral, lying is immoral, and stealing is immoral. But falling in love with a family member and having a sexual relationship? That does not harm anyone and therefore is not immoral. There is no good solid reason to make these relationships illegal. Furthermore, there is the related argument that it is a sin against God. I disagree here. It is a known fact that the wife of the prophet Abraham was his sister Sarah. If consanguinity was a sin, why would God choose one of our people to be the founder of the three major religions? Judaism, Christianity and Islam all share Abraham as their founding father. It says in Leviticus in the Bible that incest is not allowed, but doesn't that contradict the prophetization of a man who was clearly consanguineous? If God was that bothered about being anti-incest, wouldn't he have chosen somebody who was not involved with his sister? While this is contradictory and interesting, there is a more important point here to make. We live in a secular society, and in a secular society, The finer rules and regulations of religion, or even the general points of religion, need have no bearing on secular legislation. To this end, I will say that it's against my religion is not a valid excuse to ban the sexual lives of others who do not fall within the allowable scope of any given religious belief system. If it's against your faith, then don't do it yourself obviously, but don't stop others from doing it. As you can see, the arguments against the legalization of consensual incest are flimsy at best. Isn't it time our people had their full rights? Isn't it time we were free to show affection to each other in public without retribution, and isn't it time society re-evaluated their opinions of us? Time will tell, but just exposing people to this knowledge makes a difference. If you would like more information about consensual incest, then please visit my blog at consanguinamry.wordpress.com and read the articles, and visit the links section where I link to other websites which contain more information.